Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Ask Dr. Zaino Live. I believe this is number 45, episode 45. And all of you guys who have been with us this whole time, you know the routine. If you're new, welcome. You're watching live at chirothoughtleaders.com/ask-dr-zaino. And we're live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. right here. Don't miss it. If you're looking at the video right now and listening and watching me speak, you just scroll down the page a little bit with me. I want to introduce you to what is here. The big orange button right below the video says Get Access Now. We're going to explain exactly what that is. If you want a sneak peek, go ahead and click on it. It should open in a new page. And then below that, you'll see our social media links. Click them, like them, G+, tweet them, all of those great things. Let everybody know that you're here and invite them. And then below that, this is important. I want everybody to log into the chat roll below there. And I want you to ask questions and comment as we go through this. We got some very special guests with us tonight. And I'm really looking forward to this episode. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the man of the hour, Dr. Zaino. How's it going, my friend?
Good. Hey, Dr. Tabor. What's going on? All right, tonight we have a special guest. So in thinking about the new year, one of the most influential events I went to and the people I had met and their team was Ashley Mooney, who works with Rick Sapio, and Dr. Jim Tempo. They had something at the time called Chiro Finishing School, which is now Business Finishing School. And it was instrumental in really changing my mindset to probably a lot of the things that I may talk about that might seem difficult to you where you're at right now because you just didn't have that shift. I've been there, whether it be a Superman syndrome, feeling that you got to be the one that does everything in office, to the doorman principle. There's just too much junk and noise in your life, and you got to choose the people that you're around. But I mean, there's so many amazing modules I learned and applied to my life, and it really made a difference just not in my practice, but also my life. So Business Finishing School is just not about your business, which will help dramatically and simplify it because Rick's all about simplicity. But most importantly, it really shapes your life as well. So we have Ashley, which is one of the top coaches for Business Finishing School, on the line with us. So hello, Ashley.
Hi, thank you so much for having us, Chris. We really appreciate it. I'm excited to share this information with your group today.
Yeah, so Ashley, when you're coaching different doctors, what are some of the big red flags you continuously see over and over? Because one thing that's great about getting it from your perspective, there's many doctors that when they answer the questions you ask them, you're going to see that same problem come up over and over. So, if it's a problem for the majority, you definitely see some things that they don't see. So what are some of the things that you find come up a lot?
Well, we've coached over 1,000 business owners in the Business Finishing School program, and the majority of those have been chiropractors. And the number one issue that I see, especially with the chiropractic offices, is overwhelm. Doctors are overwhelmed. They're either dealing with a small staff or they're dealing with a large staff that doesn't really know what they're doing. No, people are not aligned. They're not on the same page. And what I find is when we really look into what is overwhelm, well, overwhelm isn't real. It's an opinion of what you perceive is going on in your life at the time. You think, I have so much going on. And really, overwhelm is a result of not effectively managing your time. And not effectively managing your time means that you're not having rhythms in place.
Right. So explain to everybody out there what the rhythms are. So I do these, and we talked about rhythms and rituals, but this is regarding to how you spend your time. And see, knowing that Ashley's talking about that time is your most important commodity. It's not even money. So your time you can't make more time. You can always make more money. So if you could allocate your time correctly and effectively and efficiently for you, your family, your business, and everything that's going in a forward direction towards your purpose, that time becomes exponential to be able to free you up. And that opinion, notice what you said there. Overwhelming is an opinion that you have. That is so true, because no one could just say, well, I'm overwhelmed if this happens. It is a total opinion, because you could have someone that sees 100 people a week or 2,000 people a week, and the 2,000 a week doesn't feel overwhelmed, but the person at 100 does. And what Ashley will start, what we're going to talk about right now, is the cause of that overwhelmed feeling and how you could take care of it.
Absolutely. I mean, you really did hit it on the mark. I mean, you have a doctor who sees 200 patients a week. They are on fire, and they're not only seeing patients, but they're also pushing products through their clinic. They're expanding their clinic. They're opening up multiple offices. And then you have the one chiropractic office that is seeing 50 and is completely swamped. So what's the difference? How is the 200 guy going to bed, sleeping at night, only working 20 to 40 hours a week, but then the 50 a week, 50 a day or whatever it is guy not able to keep his head above water? And it's because that 200 patient guy has rhythms. He has in his calendar what is going to happen. He's delegated to his staff. Everyone's aligned on the same page. So I'm just going to throw it back to you, Chris, and ask you, as a successful chiropractor, what are some rhythms that you learned in business finishing school that you put in place that drastically turned around and simplified your life and gave you peace?
Well, the first one was having that sole purpose. So like you said, you start off with, what is my purpose? And most doctors, I think they have an idea of it, but they don't have their true catalyzing statement. So I know you guys talk about building your catalyzing statement and your mission statement. So that's something where, you know, my goal is to adjust as many families as possible to receive chiropractic care, you know, in my community. So when you have that catalyzing statement or my sole purpose statement, everything has to align for that. So that's a litmus test of how I spend my time, or I spend my money. And then what you guys did really helped me out with the rhythms and rituals are basically your calendar, where you set up your calendar way where your time, there's intention behind all of your time, and all your time, most of your time is accountable. And you know where you're spending it, you know where you're wasting it. So the first thing that you guys said to do is, a lot of times I would make work the master of my calendar, meaning that all of my, hey Rick, is he there? There he is. All right, so I would make my calendar, you know, my work and my business ran my calendar, but then I would do family night, date night, all that other stuff when I had quote unquote time. And so what starts to happen when you let your business be the master of your calendar or your rhythms, then there goes the family thing. And it's always like, oh, well, we'll get to it when. We'll get to it when, but when never comes.
Right.
Someday never comes. That's the misconception. There's the overwhelming. There's the burnout. And the most important burnout and deception is that your marriage is somehow going to flourish when you don't put any time into it, which is a lie. And so that's why when Rick and you guys talked about the rhythms and rituals, the first thing you did was put the most important people first. The top three people that I value most is myself, my wife, and my kids. And so that becomes the priority first. So you go to the calendar, and I would put those rhythms and rituals, like you said, Ashley, whether it be taking time for personal development, taking time to go to seminars like business finishing school. You know, don't say, oh, I'm going to do it when I have free time. No, you make the time. So I put personal development, seminars, date nights, karate night with the kids. I love Rick on Sundays, the no technology Sundays. You know, you put that in first, so you know you made time, which is your greatest commodity, for the most important things in your life.
Absolutely.
So let's start with that.
And you hit on something spot on there, Chris, whenever you said initially you had all of your business stuff and then your family life fit in later. Well, most entrepreneurs, and chiropractors are entrepreneurs, they're business owners, they do that. It's all about making the money. They think that whatever the purpose of the business is everything that they have to be. So when you're filling in your calendar that way, and it's all about the business and it's all about the money, how does that make your kids feel? How does that make your spouse feel? What is there left at the family dinner table? Are you having family dinners? So what we coach in business finishing school, to your point, is family stuff in first, your kids' activities, family dinners, date night. Then look and see what are the income actions that you need to do that is making money for your business, adjusting patients, filling those in. Rick, is there anything you want to add here on rhythms?
Well, I just think that, can you hear me good?
Yes.
I just think that there's this thing called FOMO, F-O-M-O, fear of missing out. And the way I look at the world, and Chris, I know you do too, because we spent a lot of time on the phone together over the years, is when my wife and I say we're not going to do anything on Sunday, that means I'm missing out on opportunities. When my wife and I say that we're going to have dinner every single Monday night, and we haven't missed a Monday night in 10 years, I'm missing out. So what corresponds to missing out is the corollary is, I believe, that you got to trust that if you're on purpose and you're living a life that's aligned with your values, that the universe is going to provide for you. If you don't trust that, you're going to be running around like a chicken with their head cut off, chasing every opportunity. And that's the problem. So FOMO, F-O-M-O, fear of missing out, is big. And when you get comfortable with trusting the universe, you can start putting these rhythms in place, because it's a really, really interesting thing that happens to people. And I said this, I think, to you, Ashley, yesterday. Is there an echo?
Yeah, what I'm going to get Ashley to do is, when you're not talking, if you go up to the top of the screen and you hover over the top, there's a little mute. If you'll mute yourself, and I think that will fix the echo. So.
Yeah. Okay. A few years ago, a guy called me up and he said, "Can I pay you $10,000 to follow you around for a day?" And I said, "That's kind of weird. Really, I'm not interested in doing that. And that's not the kind of business I'm in." But he goes, "No, I really want to pay you. Will you do that?" And I said, honestly, I live a pretty boring life. I just go from rhythmic meeting to rhythmic meeting to rhythmic meeting. You know, what are you interested in? And he said, "I just want to see you negotiate and put out fires, and I just want to see how you do all that." So this guy was very persistent, and I cashed this check for $10,000. I sent him my calendar it was a Wednesday. I'll never forget it. And I sent him my calendar in advance, and he followed me around for a day. And at the end of the day, he goes, "You're right. That was pretty boring. You did everything that was on your calendar." And I looked at him like he was from another planet. "Is that weird to you that I did what was on my calendar?" He said, "Yeah, it's pretty weird for business people to do that." And so the bottom line is this. If you find out what you're committed to in your life and you put a rhythm around everything, your life gets smooth and you're not chasing all these things. And the last point on that I want to make is this. If you have a goal that doesn't have an associated rhythm or habit, then it's just a dream. So if your goal is to improve your marriage, take your spouse out to dinner every night for the next 52 weeks. Will that improve your marriage? Probably. Schedule sex with your spouse. A lot of people do that. That's pretty interesting. Why would I do that? Does it take spontaneity out, or does it actually create more freedom for you to have a fulfilling marriage? So I rhythmicize is what I call it, almost everything. 80% of my calendar is rhythmicized. When I read, when I work out, when I eat, when I have meetings with important people. Wednesday night, it's interesting. I'm looking at the clock. I was at an event tonight, and I knew I had this at 8. I had to be here, and I'm unfortunately was late. But every single Wednesday night for the last 20 years, I work till midnight. And my wife understands it. She's known it forever. And it's just simple. So I'm home every night except for Wednesday night, and I have dinner 6 nights a week with the family. But it makes things easy. I don't have to figure out when a client's coming in town. It's just Wednesday night. Client calls me, "I want to have dinner with you," Wednesday night. So anyway, you could rhythmicize everything. I'll stop talking.
Now, Rick, explain how, just again, how structure gives you freedom, because that's really the message here. A lot of people think, "Oh, I don't be structured." Like you said, the fear of missing out. I love that. Or are they going to be bound up? But I could get so much more done going that I know that at 4:30 in the morning, this starts, and all these things I could do. Like, so, you know, at the end of the day, I know, in fact, when you have rhythms and rituals, I see each rhythm and ritual that I do as a win. There's a dopamine release by knowing it's like, hit it, hit it, hit it. So every day I'm winning. I'm winning versus reacting and running around like crazy. It's just like, here's my schedule, here's my rhythms and ritual, date night with my wife, that's a win. That's a win. So there's you know, I remember Brian Tracy even talked about that. You know, these guys, I mean, the most successful people, they sit down and they plan, they have a plan. They don't just, they actually say, you know, don't start the day without finishing it first. There's a plan there, and it makes them so productive. That's why when you see someone like Rick, and he's very humble to tell you everything he's accomplished in, you know, less than a half a century or about that, it's like, how the hell does someone accomplish all this? It's because he's got rhythm and ritual. So it's almost like the tortoise and the hare. It's smooth and consistent, and that's what wins the race. And it's definitely not overnight success, but the most successful people, they get so much done, they all have this innately. They could call it what they want. They might call it differently. I like Rick's definite rhythms and rituals, but they all have their own name for it, but it is essentially the same principle.
Yeah, I love the Voltaire quote from many years ago. Voltaire said, "Until the rules are clearly defined," and I take that to mean until the structure and the rhythms are clearly defined, success cannot happen. It's a great quote.
Mm-hmm.
All of us are running around chasing. We're not trusting. We're on quicksand. There's a famous story, and Chris, I'm sure you heard this. I think it was in South Carolina about 20 years ago. They had this massive garbage dump in the middle of the city. I forget, you could look it up online. Massive, massive garbage dump. And someone came up with the idea that they were doing a dig out of the seashore. And they said, what if we took the dirt from the seashore and put it on the garbage dump, and we could put one of the biggest malls in the United States on top of this garbage dump? And so they did that. It's a great engineering feat. They had this mall that was built on top of about 20 feet of dirt. So you had garbage, then dirt, and then a mall. It was great. And about 15 years later, the mall started sinking. And new engineers came in and said, what did you expect? It was built on a garbage dump. And most of us go through life and we don't have solid values. We don't have a clear purpose because we didn't take the time to define that. And so we're putting stuff on top of garbage. And it's a very, very cool story for you to think about your life. And I would urge all of you, get the structure, which in business finishing school at the boot camps, we call it the business frame. It's your purpose, it's your values, it's your business strategy, and it's all of the things that you then put on top of, you then put your life on top of. But no one wants to take the time to do that. So what happens when you have problems later on? It's easy. It was built on a garbage dump, just like the story. So
Rick, what do you say to people? Because we get this question all the time when we talk about rhythms. You know, I really don't like rhythms. They make my life boring, or that seems too ritualized. I want to live more spontaneous. We get that question a lot. What's your answer to that?
I think that's an excuse for being a failure, really. It's just one more reason. I've got a friend, Damon, and Damon, I hope you don't listen to this, but I've been in a weekly rhythm with him for over 10 years. Very, very, very close friend of mine. For like 7 years, he was just like that. I don't like rhythms. I make a lot of money. I'm successful, until his life hit a roadblock. And then I said, Damon, adopt these rhythms. Now, in the last 3 years, this guy has he calls it calendarizing. He calendarizes everything, and now he gets it. So he literally went from this to this. Because the problem is, if you don't have that structure built and those rhythms in your life, what happens when you hit a wall? What happens when your industry changes, or you go bankrupt, or you find out you're having issues in your marriage, or something bad happens to your child? When you don't have that structure and those rhythms, which save you when your life is at the worst point. I went through a really, really, really rough time about 15 years ago. And I remember a mentor of mine said to me, if you want to get through this, Rick, do not change your workout. Don't change a date. Don't change an appointment. Do life as usual. And I did. And it got me through it. So I think those foundational rhythmic things about your calendar are those things that will save you when the going gets rough.
And then when you guys start to do it, it's so much fun. It's the best. It's the best in the world to be able to see that, and it creates momentum too. I like, that's one of the things I love, having momentum in my life, and just to see that, you know, yeah, there's no wasting time, because at all. And the time you do waste, like Rick said, when there is a hiccup in the road, you know, the best way to get out. And Rick, I didn't tell you the story, but Katrina, Tabor, how long ago was Katrina?
5 years ago? About 9 years, maybe.
Oh crap, 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was like, literally, I think it was like 2 years ago, and I was talking to a patient, and they were still talking about Katrina. And I just remember what Rick's talking about. It's like when a crisis hits your life, a death, and it happens, you know, a change of job, a divorce, something like you don't realize how much time goes by, and you're still talking about it 4 or 5, in this case 7 years later. And that means those 7 years you're just a victim, and you never got your life back on track because you're blaming the circumstance. Where rhythms really, like Rick says, it takes the juice out of it. And what you have to understand is there's something about life, and life, like, I'll say it differently, life doesn't care about your excuses if you don't like it. Like, you know, if something fails in your marriage because you didn't do what you're supposed to do, life really doesn't give a shit. You know, I mean, like it was your personal responsibility for missing out. And that's why these are so imperative in business, in life. But the thing is, if you don't have that right home life, and Rick has an amazing family, when you bring those two together, you're living life to the fullest. You could have it, and Rick definitely could. He's the driver. He could work till midnight, 5 days a week, and create and do so much, even more than he's doing now. But he would. His kids wouldn't, like his failed marriage side and personal life side wouldn't be worth it. And he wouldn't be someone that I would be able to look to and say, you know, Rick Sapio is someone that I would want to emulate because he has, I wouldn't call it balance, but he's fulfilled in all areas of his life. You know, I don't like the balance word. It's just, but he is definitely fulfilled because he has those rhythms and rituals. And it's not because that's the way Rick does it. It's because it's a success principle. It's not a personality driven thing.
Well, we all end up in the same place. I mean, where would you be, Chris, if your business didn't have all the rhythms that it has? Your employees know the rhythms and how you structure all your appointments and everything else. And it's really not rocket science. I mean, we want to make this all to be really hard. It's not. And what Ashley was pointing to earlier was many people want to fight a principle of success. How do you fight a principle of success? If you look at 10,000, I saw a stat recently, I don't know what the number was, 10,000 or 20,000 hamburger places have been started in the last 60 years, 20,000 call it, and one McDonald's. And what's the difference between this guy and McDonald's? McDonald's put rhythms and rituals day one. So we're arguing with a foundational principle of success. Rhythms and rituals are what you need. I mean, it's a fact of life. So when you asked me the question, Ashley, earlier, what do you say to people that fight it? What you're doing, and let me know in 5 years how it worked out for you.
Let me jump in if you don't mind, Rick. Well, first of all, I'm going to ask a question, but I want to remind the listeners out there that if they're logged in, you can ask questions in the chat roll below. Please do. I will make sure that Rick gets those. My question is about rituals and rhythms, and I know you have a whole seminar on this, which we'll talk about in just a second, but where does one start, and how do you begin to implement that into your life?
About 20 years ago, I was reading a book that was written probably 30 years ago, I don't remember, by Bill Gates. And what he said changed my life. He said, at the end of every work day, I look at every single thing I did. He would literally write down, his goal was to have a paperless office 30 years ago. I'm sorry, paperless 30 years ago. Think about that. But he said, at the end of every day, I wrote down every single thing I did for a day. And I looked at that list and I said, what could be put into a rhythm and what could be delegated? So a lot of chiropractors, they'll say, hey, let's do a new patient seminar, or let's do a XYZ, and they just do it. Bill Gates would say, what's today? Oh, today's the month. How about we do this every first Wednesday of the month and we publish it? So anything you do as a business can be rhythmicized. Now, the minute you do that, your staff knows. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel every month. So I would urge all of you listening, you're all business owners, to write down everything you do in a day, what can be delegated, and what can be put into a rhythm, whether it's a weekly rhythm, monthly rhythm, quarterly rhythm, annual rhythm. I've been involved in a lot of nonprofit work my whole life. And anytime we do an event, you know, I recently did well, it doesn't matter, a luncheon. We had a luncheon at a hotel recently. And I looked at my calendar, my watch, my flip phone. By the way, I got to show you my flip phone. You want to save 4 hours? I don't even have it on me, do I? You want to save 4 hours a day, every day? Throw the damn smartphone away, because I've never had one that saves me a lot of time. I'll find it in a minute. Anyway, I was getting on stage to make a speech about this luncheon. And it happened to be the first time we ever did it, get on stage. And I said, today is Thursday. It's the second Thursday of the month. I want to welcome everybody. The second Thursday, 1 year from now of December, we're going to have the event on the same day. And the organizing committee is going, wow, what did he just say? We're filing out of this auditorium. They're like, hey, we'll see you next year. So you could rhythmicize anything.
Awesome. Love it. If you guys want to, below the video, let me just announce this again. If you're just joining us, there's a big orange button that says Get Access Now. If you click that button, you'll be taken to a special page that says Live Business Mastery Intensive Bootcamp. So Rick, if you want to kind of explain a little bit about what that is, and we can introduce that to everybody.
So we have now had over 1,000 companies through the program. We're almost 7 years old. We're doing our 11th boot camp. And when I started the program with Dr. Patrick Gentempo in 2010, the goal was really for us to attract companies for us to invest in. I'm in the business of investing in companies. We've invested in more than 120 to be exact, over the last 23 years. But I got so much out of teaching companies really simple, basic, foundational principles of business. So we ended up in 2010 creating 48 modules of information. And so Business Finishing School is a brick by brick by brick module-based program to actually increase your business acumen, increase your success, give you exponential results. The people that do the program have the results. Chris has been in the program. So I don't know, if you're interested in learning the language of business and you want to do what some people have done before, you think come to the boot camp. February 17th at 3 p.m. It's always as a rhythm, September and February, twice a year. It's Friday at 3 p.m. and it ends on Sunday at 10:30. Ashley will be there. The team will be there. It's at the Marriott Quorum. So I don't know, Ashley, want to add anything?
Yeah, I would. I didn't tell you this, Chris, but we actually do have a promo code for your listeners. If they would like to have $200 off the $497 ticket, they can put in BFS, and I'll put that in the chat here, BFS 200, and I would give them $200 off. And if you want to be surrounded by successful entrepreneurs who are passionate about growing their business and living these principles, your life is enhanced when you know other people who are living the principles of success. You become better at business when you're around successful business people. So if this at all interests you, the conversation we had today, come and attend. We'll slow it down a lot and have you have time to implement the things that you're learning while you were there. There are no other outside speakers or presenters. It's mainly Rick and myself and one other presenter that's also in the Business Finishing School program. We'd love to see you there, and contact me if you have any questions about it. Chris, what do you want to say about the event? You've been to several.
Yeah, no, they're great. I always get upset at Rick because of the low cost of the event. Because Rick, I mean, it's one of those things, because I don't want anybody watching this to think, I mean, it is such a great event, and the fact that Rick is doing as much as he is great. Part of your rhythms and ritual is that you need to have seminars and mentorship and coaching and thought leadership throughout the year of every year of your life. So make this part of it. Like, you have to become better. I don't know what you're doing to become better, and if you're definitely not having the rhythms and rituals in your life, and what we talked about today was one small module. You're going to be of the many they teach. So don't think this is not a seminar and just how to have rhythms and rituals in your calendar. This is just part of the stepping stones to create really the business and life you want. But it's something where you have to sit down and ask yourself, like I always say, when I make a decision, I always ask myself, not what if I do? Yeah, so if I go to it, it'll be nice, I'll learn some stuff. Always ask yourself the question, what if I don't? So what if I don't go? So my life's still going to be the same. I'm going to have chaos in my life. You know, how would if I, but when I went there and I learned about the Superman principle, when I learned about rhythms and rituals, when I learned about the doorman principle, when I learned about building the structure of the business based on my core philosophies and values, if I didn't learn that, looking back, well, what if I don't? My entire life would have been different, and my year would have been different. See, I'm a firm believer that we don't have as much time in our lives than we think we do, and time flies by. And the thing is, for you to waste opportunity, like Warren Buffett says, when you see an opportunity, don't blink. And it really hasn't. That's a great thing to live by. So this is an opportunity. The fact that I appreciate you guys giving a discount, that's wonderful. You take advantage of it. And for those, and it's plain and simple, like Rick said, a year from now, on this date, those of you who took advantage of it, your life will be better. And those of you didn't, life doesn't care. You know that you're still in the same spot or worse. You never stay the same. So please take advantage of it. It's great. I love it. And I still talk about this stuff even today. And I talk about this stuff all the time. When I always talk about Rick and Dr. Gentempo. So take advantage of it. And Rick, any last final words before we close out?
Just the last thought I would say is this: why are you complicating your life? We're all about subtraction, not addition in a weird way, meaning when you subtract all the extraneous stuff, you actually have a life that's peaceful and successful and on purpose. And I look at a guy like Chris, I just look at him, stare at his face. He's calm, he's collected, because he's on purpose. And that's what we're going to bring to you, that peaceful, prosperous nature that is your innate nature. So get your butt to Business Finishing School Bootcamp.
All right, Tabor, close it out, bud.
All right, sounds good. I want to thank everybody for being on. Rick, Ashley, you guys rock. You're awesome. Thank you for being so generous as well. If you're watching, guys, below the video, click on the big orange button. It will take you to a special page where you just hit click to register. You want to enter BFS200 and get $200 off the $497 price. So again, thank you all for being here, and we'll see you next week. Stay tuned. Keep an eye on your email. We have some really exciting stuff coming your way soon. Have a great night.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks.